I was on the phone. You didn't have to wait. We are waiting for a commissioner. She is en route, but we will go. I know. It's like you just wanted to hear what was going on. Well, call us to order at 7:05 p.m. Welcome everybody to our August meeting. Yeah, I think I've missed these. Everybody else missed them too? It's been a little while. Before we do the pledge, I want to congratulate everybody on winning their elections, and a special shout out over here to Commissioner Somerville. It looks like we got renewed for another season here. We had I think a tough election. It's over, and we're going to be here for another 4 years or so. So let's go ahead and do the pledge. Ready? All right, rise for the pledge. Yeah. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, let's move right into roll call. Ready?
Commissioner Beeman. Present. Commissioner Hodge.
Present.
Commissioner LaBarre.
Present.
Commissioner Light. Commissioner Maciejewski.
Present.
Commissioner Robbie.
Here.
Commissioner Sanders.
Here.
Commissioner Scott.
Here.
Commissioner Somerville.
Here.
All right, Commissioner Light will be joining us within 10 minutes or so. So we will move forward into public participation. So I'm gonna go through the spiel again here. So here at the Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners meeting, you get 3 minutes for public comment. If you are in the room, you will join us at the podium and state your name, city or township. You'll have to state the city or township. Otherwise, I have to remind you to do that at the end of the comment. Ashlyn needs it for the notes. And I don't want her getting mad over here. She's new to the job, and don't want her getting frustrated with having to get the city or township piece. You get a nice color-coded light system there. Starts at green, goes down to yellow when there's 1 minute left, and stops on red. That means your time is up. At that point, I'll have to stop you. I don't want to have to stop you, but those are the board rules. If you're joining us online via Zoom, you will hit the raise hand icon. Raise your hand. I will call on you. Same rules apply. State your name, city or township. Go 3 minutes. We have a timer, and then you'll know it's over. If you are joining on Zoom via the phone, like you called in, you will hit *9 to raise your hand. I will call on you. You'll hit *6 to unmute yourself. Same rules apply again. Name, city, or township. We've also received a number of written public comments that are published in the board packet and all the commissioners have access to. So let's get started. Anybody in the room want to come down for public comment?
Hi, good evening, commissioners. My name is Nancy Hine. I live in the city of Ypsilanti. I'm also the president of Local 3052. First, I wanted to stand in front of you tonight to thank all the commissioners. Oh, sorry. Some of my negotiators are here tonight. One's out in the lobby, and then Amy White is one that was on my negotiating team, and Lauren Kowalski. Stephanie Swisher's out working. She's on call. She's out in the lobby. I wanted to, first of all, stand in front of you tonight to thank all the board commissioners that helped our unions get these contracts across the finish line after a very successful rally back in the spring. You passed a resolution to make sure we received fair wages with the additional funding you approved for the bargain for employees. What started out as a happy moment has suddenly turned sour after reading the language that got tucked into the 2733 resolution. It now appears that the unions were negotiating for the non-union staff as well. Really? The resolution you are approving tonight also includes the same raises. We spent hundreds of hours negotiating to be offered to the non-union staff. The additional funding passed by the Board of Commissioners was specifically for the bargain for employees. So that funding resolution that you passed must really be a lie. The union members don't get what the non-union get, and we've been told that whenever we question those raises. Administration approves for the non-union staff. Every time it looks like administration is doing the right thing for us, there's always a catch, always some kind of backroom deal made on our backs. This is pure greed, and I'm just going to leave it there for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Come on down, Dirk. But state your name, city or township. Dirk Mayhew.
Dirk Mayhew, Ann Arbor. Thanks for letting me speak, and congratulations to you too as well, Chair Hodge.
Oh, thank you very much.
Last time I was here, I was talking about a cross-county contract swap between the undersheriff of Ingham County, who had a private consulting firm, and the Washington County Sheriff, who has a private consulting firm. Each county was hiring the other consultant. And thank you, Commissioner Robbie, for fact-checking me live and saying that truthfully, everything I said was right. In there, though, I think we lost track of the fact that we employ a training manager who paid himself for training as a private consultant that he himself provides. Your employee, Sheriff Deputy J. Eric Waddle, I think is his name, 7 times charged on his county credit card to pay the private consulting firm Mack & Law Associates. And I know we're struggling to figure out what's wrong with this, but I don't think anybody thinks that this is good behavior. Unfortunately, that's not the end of it. In the fallout from that, and thank you for fielding it, Commissioner LaBarre, the message back from Sheriff Clayton included the statement. He had never used his consulting firm to work directly for Washington County. As you can see in the email I sent all of you, though, Sheriff Clayton did require his consultant to get this thing called strategic inmate management training, which his consulting firm provides. In fact, if you go on Google, you're going to see that he's the premier provider of strategic inmate management training. It's national recognition. He's good at it. But in that process, if he was the consultant that provided it, yeah, he didn't contract directly with Washtenaw, but he was a consultant to a consultant for Washtenaw. You've got the contract, you've got the references. I know it's hard to call out your friends. And in my view, Sheriff Clayton's been a good sheriff for Washtenaw County. He really has. I mean it. But Jerry Clayton has also been a consultant, and that's been problematic. We need somebody to look into it. In fact, Commissioner Sanders, you asked for people to look into whether we're getting value out of our consultants. I mean, this is a direct result of that. Unfortunately, I think the next time I come, I'm going to tell you we're paying consultants with no contract, no deliverables, no written obligations to do anything, and we're still cutting checks. We need somebody to look at how the money is spent. Not, I noticed council just left. Is that indicative of something? But we need somebody to look into how the money is spent. I think we want this body to be more than just appropriations. And I think you want that too. And as hard as it is, somebody's got to do it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, what's going on here? There will be a response later. All right.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jo Angela Early. I reside in Ypsilanti Township. I'm an educator, librarian, and a commissioner for the Washtenaw County Historic District Commission, or the Washtenaw County HDC. I want to take the opportunity to tell you about some of the work we've been doing on the commission in the last year and how this has contributed to the county. In the last year, we have worked to update multiple projects, including story maps and HISWeb, the county's public repository for historic data. These projects help preserve the county's history, enable research on properties, and facilitate heritage tourism. During this same period, the HDC has added a new local historic district in Scioto Township. This new district, the Wild Fray Farm, was part of Scioto Township's strategy to buy, protect, sell, which stabilizes properties, adds them to the tax roll, and contributes to the Greenbelt program. In the past 12 months, the HDC has successfully achieved project deadlines for our ongoing Northfield Township grant, which will result in the nomination of 4 sites in Northfield Township to the National Register of Historic Places. These nominations will enable historic tax credits for property owners, qualify residents to apply for grants, increase their property values, and contribute to the township's historic preservation objective in their master plan. Furthermore, we have begun the process of adding the first local historic district in Northfield Township. The property known as Groves Farm will assist in our efforts to complete nominations in areas that are currently underrepresented. This nomination, along with the aforementioned Northfield Township grant, were strategically initiated to result in further nominations of local historic districts in that township. The goal of the HDC is to safeguard the heritage of Washtenaw County through preservation of historic sites and structures. Above all, our aim is to contribute to the residents of Washtenaw County by helping stabilize and improve property values, assisting historic property owners, and enabling financial support through grants and tax incentives. The success of our program has been the direct result of passionate part-time staff and HDC volunteers whose annual budget was eliminated in years past. Our efforts at the HDC would benefit from the Board of Commissioners' support, including increased staff time and reinstatement of our HDC budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on down. Name, city, or township.
What?
You gotta say your name and your city or your township.
Okay, sorry. I had to bring this down.
You can move the podium too.
Move it. That doesn't help. Whew. My name is Alice Ralph. I've been associated with the WCHDC, the Washtenaw County Historic District Commission, for over 20 years, and I appreciate the reappointments I've received from previous boards of commissioners. I'm going to talk a little bit about Gordon Hall, which is our largest property that's protected in Washtenaw County. To be locally, it's been locally designated for protection by the unique county-wide Historic District Commission. There really is no other county-wide such organization, and it's a real pleasure to have it. The mansion that dominates the site was the ultimate residence of Judge Samuel W. Dexter, an abolitionist and a land speculator who founded the village of Dexter in 1824 and gave the village his family name. Built in 18 something before the Civil War, he gave the mansion and the maiden name of his mother's family to become Gordon Hall. I can skip the wonderful bios of his children and mention that local historic designation in 2001 of the Gordon Hall District has protected over a century of continuous cultivation of farmland within the property, a visible marker in keeping with local land preservation goals. The Dexter community united both to raise funds for purchase of the property from the University of Michigan and continues to raise funds for phases of needed renovation as a public venue. The large constituency that supports Gordon Hall draws grant awards and private donations to help fund professional and construction services. Volunteers participate in managing events and maintenance. Gordon Hall is a uniquely large and publicly accessible historic district owned by a nonprofit organization, which is the Dexter Area Historical Society and Museum. All tax-paying private owners of private properties designated by the WCHDC can qualify to receive state and federal tax credits for maintaining their historic properties while adhering to standards set by the U.S. Department of the Secretary of Interior. However, administration of these benefits and others such as grants from private organizations often requires volunteer and government staff time. A budget line was removed years ago during a period of austerity. The marker initiative was dropped. Dedicated staff time was restricted. The WCHDC could do more for the communities and programs we serve with the
Your time is up. Just finish your thought. there.
restoration of an annual budget.
Thank you. You didn't say your city or your township.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm from Ann Arbor.
Ann Arbor. All right. Thank you very much. Come on down. Name, city, or township.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Kat Slocum. I'm from Whitmore Lake. I'm also the Historic Preservation Specialist for Washtenaw County. I want to thank the Commissioners for coming this evening. We wanted to come because we recently got awarded a grant for Gordon Hall, $170,000 for this important site that was just noted. But I also wanted to take this opportunity to talk to you about our Heritage Preservation Program in Washtenaw County from the staff perspective. Over the years, the position has experienced departmental shift in county funding allocation. Having previously been full-time with an annual HDC budget, the role has been dwindled to part-time with zero annual budget from the county to support HDC programming. One consequence of this lack of time and funding is that staff are now unable to feasibly do local historic designation for understudied sites. Previously, we could complete this with staff time or with grants. However, due to limited staff time, we cannot apply, manage, or administer the grants that we could apply for. When we have the opportunity to apply for these large grants, if we have $10,000 to complete a survey or $170,000 for a property, we're obviously going to choose the $170,000. So we cannot complete surveys for new historic districts at this time. So we typically aim for these larger grants to support existing districts. As a result, we now are limited to sites that have already been added to the National Registry. That way, the bulk of the research is complete and we can convert these nominations over into local historic districts. This is highly problematic for many reasons. Firstly, a National Registry nomination typically costs thousands of dollars for the homeowner. This is economically not feasible as we are asking historic property owners in need of funding support to first get funding to get the nomination. This economic limitation severely impacts our efforts towards diversity, equity, and inclusion by limiting our pool of candidates to those that can already afford it. In historic preservation, this is a compounding issue, where those sites that need the most preservation and funding through grants and tax incentives are the same sites that often cannot afford it to do the nomination process. Lack of HDC funding and reduced staff time are the severe limiting factors in our county's historic preservation efforts. When the position was last full-time, our county boasted 9 local historic districts. We now have 17, including a large district in Ann Arbor. As part of the job, I complete heritage tours and projects, manage our GIS platforms, historic resource database, apply for grants, manage all of our local historic districts, staff the HDC, assist our local historical societies, complete all Section 106 compliance for single-family rehab and affordable housing in OCED, as well as public inquiries. While doing all of this work in the last year, we have successfully been awarded over $200,000 in grants while costing the county less than $45,000 for the part-time role. Imagine what we could do with more time and reinstatement of the HDC budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room for public comment? All right, come on down. Name, city, or township. Yeah, raise the podium. There you go. Takes a minute.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Maybe a little more, actually.
It won't count against your 3 minutes.
All right. Good evening, Dan Kelly, Superior Township. Sorry, it took me a minute. Good evening, commissioners and administrator. My name is Dan Kelly, Executive Director of the Shelter Association of Washtenaw County. We're housed out of the Delana Center, our primary site, just down the road in downtown Ann Arbor. I wanted to attend today's meeting briefly to share my gratitude and thanks to the county for your support, serving some of our most vulnerable neighbors across Washtenaw County, specifically out of the Delana Center down the street. We've seen increased need over the last year with our waiting list going up by 40%. At this very moment, we've got 140 people waiting for a shelter bed. So the work we're doing is incredibly important as ever right now. During this time, the support of the county has been, as always, critically important, but even more important as we've seen these increased needs. And I just wanted to share that we've been incredibly appreciative of this support and ongoing support during this time. I did want to give a specific thank you to Jason Fee and Nick Woods, the facilities, in the whole facilities team, Jason Fee being the facilities director. We actually were able to receive a MDHHS shelter expansion grant. We've been doing a whole slew of really cool upgrades and improvements starting in the spring of this year. Starts with an elevator modernization, which is incredibly needed. Our building sees 250 people in it every day. We've got a generator being installed. We've got so many more projects. I'm trying to look them up real quick. There's a ton of them. A new bathroom capabilities, a new badge system, landscaping projects, and then most importantly, a shelter expansion that's actually happening right now. Really excited to share that. It's 8 additional beds, not a huge amount of beds, but it is on our women's floor where while there is a disparity between men and women seeking shelter, we did see a 100% increase in women seeking shelter last winter. And wanted to thank facilities specifically because they're overseeing these projects and it's a lot of work. So I know we're put a lot of pressure on Jason and Nick and the whole team there. So a huge thank you to them. And then one thing more I want to say is, as someone who's worked in many counties throughout the state, I just want to reiterate that this deep partnership that we have with the county and the county's support for homeless services, it really stands out as something unique. It really is a model for other counties across the state and really communities across the country. We see groups reach out from all over the place and talk about, hey, how did you form such a strong partnership with your community locally in working on such an important issue? So I just want to thank you for your time and thank you for all the county's support as we work on meeting the need together and ending homelessness one person at a time.
Thank you. It was a good closer. All right, anybody else in the room? All right, let's turn to our, go ahead. Name, city, or township.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Mary Campbell. I do not live in Washtenaw County. Hey, maybe after this contract, I can, after the raise, who knows? However, I'm here to talk to you about, the first thing that I wanted to address was to thank the commissioners that helped us with support in actually negotiating a fair wage proposal and helping us get the contract ratified. I can't thank you enough for that. You know who you are. One of the other things, I really came tonight to only talk and thank the commissioners, that's it, until I read tonight's packet and the resolution to approve 2733's contract. And there is a line in that resolution that says, there's a line in here that says, be it further resolved that the county administrator is authorized to issue non-union increases in the same manner as AFSCME 2733. And that historically, they have always, the non-union has always received the same increases as 2733 or any other union that may have negotiated a different wage proposal, a higher wage proposal. Commissioners, the non-union didn't stand outside in a cold, rainy day on a weekend or stand outside to picket what we felt were unfair wage proposals or just unfair labor relations all the way around. They didn't come to you and ask you for your support and stand here meeting after meeting to get you to hear what the union needed from the commissioners to help the union employees. The union does have an issue and would like clarification on what exactly that line in that resolution means, because there was a resolution that was passed. I wasn't able to find it. I was trying desperately to look it up online, where when additional funds were set aside for the union to be able to negotiate better at the wage proposals, or for administration to be able to offer a better wage proposal than what they were offering, it was put in that resolution that these were for bargained for employees only. And there was an amendment to that resolution that was approved that night, and that it would not be for the non-bargained for employees. So I have some very serious questions about this line item in there about approving 2733's contract and giving the non-union those same increases in the manner that 2733 is being given. I would like clarification to that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room for public comment? Nope. Okay, well, let's turn to our friends online. Who do we have, Ashley?
Chair, first we have Samuel Hayes.
All right, Samuel Hayes, please state your name, city, or township.
Hello, good evening. My name is Samuel Hayes. I live in Superior Township, and I'm here in solidarity with my union members, Nancy and Mary, also wondering about the resolution seeming to change versus what we were allowed a few months ago as a show of support from the Board of Commissioners. Now it appears that a lot of the hard work and time that my union compatriots have put in at the negotiating table will be spread to others who did not spend any time at the negotiating table. And I would also like them to be made comfortable with this explanation. Thank you very much for all the work that you do and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Anybody else online? That's it. Last call for anybody in the room. All right, we're closing public comment. All right. Commissioner response. Anybody want to respond? You want to respond? Oh, do it. Commissioner Robbie.
Thank you, Chair. And first, I just want to thank everyone who came forward today to speak. I always value public comment and all the voices of everyone that has come forward. So first off, on the labor issue, very sympathetic to what's been said. I look forward to having this discussion later in the agenda. I know that you all, I don't know if you'll be able to stick around or not, but it is later on the agenda, and I do want to bring this up for discussion with my colleagues. I do think this is something that's important for us to look into. I would like to continue a discussion on it then, and I will ask for it to be pulled from the agenda for a separate discussion. Dirk, thank you for always coming to our meetings. Appreciate the information that you're providing to us, and hopefully, all of us here can continue to look into the things that you're bringing forward. And I know that your words are being taken seriously by everybody at the county based on what I just heard. So lastly, I want to talk about the historic district. Thank you to those that came forward to speak about the historic district issue, especially to our staff member who's here today on how limited your time is and how stretched thin you are. I think that's really important perspective, and I really appreciate you coming forward and having the courage to speak to us about that today, and of course all the support that you got from those that you brought forward to advocate. And if Alice is still here, hi Alice, she might have left, but I've known Alice for years, good people. And so obviously historic districts are really important to our community. And as you alluded to, when I started as a commissioner, we had more funding for the historic district. I believe it was Melissa that was working for the county at the time. There was as you said, movement to part-time, which was unfortunate, but I guess a necessity of, as Alice was saying, an austerity budget period when we had to cut, millions, $10 million out of the budget in 2011, 2012. And so, things got cut, and that was one of the things that got cut, unfortunately. And now we are over a decade later and we haven't restored that funding, which is unfortunate. So I value everything that you've said and would certainly support us being more, putting more money into supporting our historic district efforts countywide. So thank you for speaking today, all of you.
Anybody else? Commissioner LaBarre.
Thanks, Chair. Just to echo on that, though, I would also benefit greatly from those comments in written form, because it's easy to get sort of glossed over in the totality of public comment. If you could put them in written form to the board, I think that would be helpful both going forward and elsewise. And there is an option, I believe, Chair, on the board portal, which I understand you're a fan of. So multiple options there that I'd benefit from. Thanks.
I am a big fan of board portal. Anybody else? Commissioner Scott. Hey there.
Thanks, Chair. My kid is calling me. He's 17. You know why that's a big deal if you have a teenager. I'll leave after this and call him back. I want to thank everybody for coming for public comment. I enjoy, it's a full room and I enjoy seeing that. People engaged in government. I just want to have a brief note, and like Commissioner Robbie, I will probably say more when it comes time for us to talk about the resolutions we have where people have ratified agreements, which is always a very exciting time when you have a new agreement to be ratified. There were surprising things to me in some of those resolutions I will have questions about as we go forward. And I want to note that one of my questions will be a budget question about that money and money that we approve for union contracts. However, speaking to the union members here, although I can feel your frustration with that, as somebody who has a union representing her at work as well, one of the things I feel most proud of in my collective bargaining is that rising tide lifts all ships. And we know that union labor and union wages help people everywhere earn more. And I don't think, I want to make sure that probably you're happy that people are making more money too, but maybe it'd be appropriate to see that in a separate resolution so that the hard work that you did at the table is not misrepresented. So thank you very much for that hard work. And I am eager to have more questions on these issues later in the evening. Thanks.
All right, anybody else? Do it. All right, call them back. All right, excellent. All right, well, thank you all for attending. It's been different having these only once a month. Not as many public comments as usual, but we had a lot or some number in the written public comments. So thank you all for coming out. I know it's not always easy speaking in a time-limited fashion like that. So we're gonna move forward now to liaison reports. Usually I would call on Commissioner Scott for a liaison report, but she is not in the room. Anybody else? Nope. No, okay, I'll give one. You want to do it? You got one? No? All right, we got one from the Board of Health. We approved the budget recommendation from the Health Department at our last Board of Health meeting. So you all see that. I believe it's maybe in this packet, and then we'll have a conversation soon about other needs in the Health Department. So look forward to that. Really good conversation. I think we had some earlier discussions around some of the potential needs in the Health Department, and it does not look as dire as we thought before. So still some work for us to do there, but tune in for that discussion with the Health Department. All right, that's it for liaison reports. We'll move on to special order of business. We don't have any. No appointments today. Going to go into the consent agenda. You might want to move the consent agenda. So move. So a second. Okay, we do have a special item in the consent agenda to talk about today. Before that, we'll go through the communications. We didn't have any spicy communications, so wouldn't worry about it. But we could always send one, right? It's one of those things we can work on, right? We could send one to, Livingston County, maybe. We like Livingston. One of the other counties. Ottawa, we want to send it to Ottawa County. We want to send something. They send stuff to us sometimes. We'll send something to Ottawa. Let's work on something to send to them. But yeah, okay, good. All right, well, let's hear from Clerk Kesterbaum. You want to come on down? Big news here. Yeah, raise the podium.
Good evening. Good evening. I wanted to report that we had a good election, a relatively trouble-free election. We had about 83,000 voters countywide, which is a bit down from the last primary. What was particularly disappointing was that the participation in early voting was pretty anemic. We had about 5,700 early voters in the presidential primary, and in this primary we had only about 3,500. And some of the sites were really very little used, unfortunately. But we are, of course, mandated to have 9 days of early voting, and we plan to continue early voting in the same manner that we've been doing it in the presidential primary and in yesterday's primary. As most of you know, there are 4 jurisdictions: Ypsilanti Township, Bridgewater Township, the City of Ann Arbor, and the City of Milan, who do early voting on their own. And Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti Township have multiple sites. All the other 23 jurisdictions in the county out of the 27 have cooperated with my office to set up basically county-operated early voting sites, 5 different sites, including LRC. So we have, I think that this is cost-effective and efficient way of handling the problem. The legislation implementing early voting allowed for each area to decide for itself what was the best way, the best approach to doing early voting. We had really I'm going to be talking a little bit later on this evening about the issue of the difficulty with having too lengthy of a ballot. We did have one precinct or a portion of a precinct which did have two ballots. It was in Webster Township, in the Whitmore Lake Schools portion of Webster Township. But we did not encounter any particular difficulties in that one small area. I'm sure you all know you're all renominated for a new term, and I anticipate that next year's Board of Commissioners is going to look just like the Board of Commissioners I have before me. And I congratulate you all, especially those of you who had opposition in the primary, and won really quite convincingly. We will have a new sheriff starting in the first of the year, Alicia Dyer. We'll have a new county treasurer and a new water resources commissioner. And I was renominated. So so I would say, all told, the election went well. We had minimal problems, and we're looking forward to the election in November. We might have a recount in the city of Ypsilanti, Ward 3. There was an 8-vote difference between the winning and losing city council candidates. Honestly, a recount in an area like that is not going to overcome an 8-vote difference. So I'm not sure that the one candidate will pursue the recount or not, but that's certainly a possibility, and that would be his privilege if he chooses to do that, and we will carry out the recount if that is the choice. Any questions?
Any questions, friends? Commissioner LeBar.
Thanks, Chair. Clerk, thank you for the report. I think with the changes that are coming in countywide, you will be the countywide elected official with the longest seniority going forward. And I guess I'd ask you to call upon that. Do you remember an instance where we will have, like we're going to have in 2025, 3 new countywide elected officials? And do you have any guidance in terms of how we can best support and help those elected officials in the offices they serve? Is that with any precedent?
Well, during the time I've been involved, it's typically been 1 new official each cycle instead of 3. So this is certainly unusual in my experience. I imagine if you go back further, you would find more when the officials tended to serve for shorter periods of time, and it was a 2-year term. But I know that when I started in the beginning of 2005, and Frank Cambria was here as the deputy administrator, and I remember Frank saying to me, we want you to be a success as in your position, and I wish the same to the 3 new officials, and I hope that they are successful. I mean, I expect them to be, but and it has been a point of principle for me since before I've been here to be. I'm here to solve problems, not create problems, and so I work with the county administration and with the other officials, and not at cross purposes with them. So it's going to be an uncertain and perhaps exciting time as these new folks work into those positions and learn the things that they're going to learn. So, but I will be ready with advice and help if needed.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'd just like to take a moment to thank you, Larry, for the extensive work that you've done to make sure that we have excellent elections administration in our community, the work that you've done with our local clerks to give them support. You have been a rock in this community to make sure that we have just the best elections in the state, and you have such a wealth of knowledge that you've been able to spread to other parts of the state as well. So I just want to thank you and value you as a resource to our community as you have been, as you said, since 2005. So thank you for all your good work.
I appreciate that. And again, I do rely on the 27 local city and township clerks that we have and worked with them through every election. We have a very decentralized election system in Michigan. And we recently, a few months ago, had a visit from someone at the State Bureau of Elections who commented that this is the only sizable county where there isn't a war going on between the county clerk and the local clerks. So I take some pride in that. I know that when I started my first meeting with the local clerks, and they were the election consolidation law was going into effect the same day I took office, which basically abolished the role of school districts in conducting elections that they used to, which was immensely duplicative. I mean, it was long overdue, but many of the locals were terrified that of what changes would happen, and so they were all they were scared, and they didn't know what was going to happen, and they were very hostile. And within a few months, I had them on my side. So as you all know, Ed Golubowski, who was my election director and chief deputy, has gone on to the U.S. Election Assistance Commission. I have basically two people filling in his role. Trish Riley is the chief deputy clerk register, and Rena Bash, who is the Ann Arbor Township clerk for 20 years, is the election director. And those two have moved smoothly into those roles and are doing great. So I have high expectations for them, and they are meeting those expectations.
Excellent. Do you have any thoughts on why turnout was lower than 2 years ago?
I'm sorry?
Do you have any thoughts on why turnout was lower than 2 years ago? The rain, yes, the rain. The rain was pretty bad. Yeah.
I'm not sure. One of the things that I have observed is that ever since Donald Trump was elected in 2016, turnout across the board in every kind of election has been higher than it was before. Even relatively small elections will see double the number that we would usually see, and perhaps that couldn't be sustained permanently. We had in two primaries in a row, we had over 100,000 voters. So the decline is not huge, but it's a decline, and perhaps people are a bit exhausted. But it's also the case that when you talk about our electorate, it's constantly changing. There's constant churn going on. People are moving here. People are moving away. It's not the same people as it was 2 years ago or 4 years ago or 8 years ago. So so it's difficult to compare. So I'm beyond that. No, I don't know. We had active races in many parts of the county. In Ypsilanti Township, in Scioto Township, Pittsfield Township, in one of the wards of Ann Arbor, and as well as countywide. But we didn't have really very much in the way of activity in terms of the kind of attention that maybe a gubernatorial primary would get, or more active U.S. Senate primary than the one that we had. So, but primary turnout historically has been really very dependent on what's going on in that primary. And when there's no races on the ballot, a lot of people figure there's no reason for them to show up. So you might have a factor of 2 difference between one year and another. So, but this may be just returning to the norm. But I appreciate the question, but I don't have a good answer for you.
Yeah, I think that was a good answer. Well, thank you and your team for running another fantastic election and implementing the 9 days early voting. I know that created some additional challenges, and hopefully more people will make use of it as time goes on.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you will be on the agenda again in a little bit here. Yep. All right. Any other comments about any of the other items on the consent agenda? Nope. All right. Well, this is a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. All right. Consent agenda passed. Going into resolutions, we are in our final month of the summer schedule, so we have a ton of single reading items all the way to R. Yep, R. All right. Would anybody like to move the single reading items and claims? Commissioner Scott.
All the way to R.
All the way to R.
The resolutions all the way to R, in section 9(1)A, a resolution ratifying the application to the State of Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy Community Energy Management Grant Program and approving the county administrator's signature on the grant award from Facilities Management. B, a resolution ratifying the application to the Department of Energy's Communities Sparking Investment in Transformative Energy Seaside Grant from Facilities Management. C, a resolution to accept $40,000 grant from the Huntington Bank for COVID impacted micro enterprises from the Office of Community and Economic Development. D, a resolution approving the acceptance of the Meals on Wheels American Grant to the Senior Nutrition Program from the Office of Community and Economic Development. E, a resolution authorizing the county administrator to sign the lease agreement with the city of Ann Arbor for the indoor vehicle storage at 2000 South Industrial Highway, Ann Arbor, from the sheriff's office. F, a resolution authorizing the signature of the chair of the board on the 24-25 State Child Care Fund Budget Summary, Form 2091 from the Juvenile Court Children's Services and MDHHS. G, a resolution authorize, oh, no, there's no authorizing there. A resolution that the Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners, oh, there's the authorization of the 2024-25 Washtenaw County Indigent Public Defense Budget from the Public Defender's Office. H, a resolution setting the 2024 Washtenaw County millage rate for the Huron-Clinton Metropolitan Authority from Finance. I, a resolution authorizing the transfer of $75,000 from the opioid settlement fund to the Washtenaw County Health Department for the purpose of supporting opioid settlement planning efforts from administration. J, a resolution to approve the continuity of support for community violence intervention and winter sheltering activities through the replacement and reclassification of $220,000 and $220,012 of ARPA funding. K, a resolution approving additional modifications to the Washtenaw County travel policy. L, a resolution reaffirming Washtenaw County's commitment to the continuum of care, its role as lead agency within the continuum of care, and its use of the continuum of care related to policy and service delivery. M, a resolution to add clarifying titles and amending introductory language to the county millages on the November 5th, 2024 ballot. N, a supplemental resolution to approve the tentative agreement with TPOAM Clerical for its 2024 through 2027 collective bargaining agreement from Corporation Counsel. O, supplemental, a resolution to approve the tentative agreement with AFSCME 2733 all units for its 2024 through 2026 collective bargaining agreement and authorizing non-union compensation adjustments from Corporation Counsel. P, a supplemental resolution to approve the tentative agreement with the Michigan Nurses Association for its 2024 through 2027 collective bargaining agreement from Corporation Counsel. Q, we're almost there. A supplemental, a resolution to approve the tentative agreement with AFSCME 3052, both units for their 2024 through 2026 collective bargaining agreements from Corporation Counsel. R, a supplemental, a resolution recognizing childcare as a crisis impacting families as a key barrier to regional economic growth in Livingston and Washtenaw County. And 2A, a resolution authorizing the payment of claims commencing with the last previously approved claim and continuing through the date of July 29th, 2024.
Oof, that's some top-notch reading there. Thank you. That was great.
Work.
Remember that meeting we had double A, when we got all the way to double A? Yeah, that was rough. Good reading. Anybody got, thank you, Commissioner LeBar. All right, get ready. Corp Counsel, we're about to, which ones are we pulling for separate consideration here? Well, what we're gonna end up doing is doing the contracts after closed session. So, because part of that is going to be the topic of closed session. You got a different question. All right, Commissioner Beaman, go ahead. All right, B, circle B. Commissioner Scott.
I want to hear more about contracts after closed session, but while we're figuring out how to explain
May
that
not be
to us,
necessary if there's a
I do want to pull M.
M. All right. Commissioner Sanders.
L.
L. M and L so far. L. We have B, L, and M so far. Yeah. Commissioner Robbie.
I just had a question as to the meeting logistics behind waiting until after,
Close it. Can you explain?
because if they've all been moved, we'd
Yeah.
have to amend the agenda, basically.
That's what I was at. That was the pause.
Okay.
Yeah, and thinking that through, that's correct. They've been moved.
I
and
mean, is it necessary that we go to do that?
It's not necessary.
Okay. Well. I mean, we have a different topic to cover in closed session anyway, right? So it's. Well, no, my question is it necessary for us to talk about the contracts in closed session before we talk about it?
It's not necessary.
Okay. All right. Well. We could do closed session now. We could. Let's do that now. But we're midway into this now, so we have to amend the agenda. This got a little messy.
Let's take a 5-minute recess.
We're taking a unless anybody objects, we're taking a 5-minute recess. Anybody objecting? Nope. All right, 5-minute recess. snacks, come on back. I see you. Come on. All right, welcome back. Come on. Just hold on. We're just please hold, friends. Yeah. Just hold on. We're gonna get it going. Yep. There are comments about snacks in the break area. Well, I mean, they can hear the chatter. They want to know what's going on. Oh, I heard her. All right. Well, yeah, that may be true. All right, we can take the commercial break screen off now. we're gonna move on without you. Okay, excellent. All right, that got a little messy there, but that's okay. We've got it worked out here. So for us to go into closed session before discussion of some of these items, what I'm going to ask for now is a motion from somebody to table all of the resolutions and claims. Okay, this is not debatable, so it's going to be a roll call vote. I know you like a non-debatable motion. That's your favorite.
Commissioner Hodge.
Yes.
Commissioner LeBar.
Yes.
Commissioner Light.
Yes.
Commissioner Machewski.
Yes.
Commissioner Robbie. Commissioner Sanders.
Yes.
Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
Commissioner Somerville.
Keep
Commissioner Beaman.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Everything's tabled. Okay. So now what's going to happen is I'm going to ask for a motion for us to go into closed session to discuss labor negotiations and an opinion from Corporation Counsel. And then when we come back from closed session, I'm going to get a motion to take all the things off the table, and then we will proceed as normal.
So moved. Support.
But I said like multiple things. Is that sufficient or?
I
Give me
move that
the
we
motion.
go, I move that we go into closed session.
Is there a second?
Support.
Okay. You got to say, well, I said it. The motion is to go into closed session to discuss labor negotiations and an opinion from Corporation Counsel. Is that what you understood?
That is what I'm moving.
That is what you're moving. Is somebody who second that? Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and roll call vote that.
Commissioner LeBar.
Yes.
Commissioner Light.
Yes.
Commissioner Machewski.
Yes.
Commissioner Robbie.
Yes.
Commissioner Sanders.
Yes.
Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
Commissioner Somerville. Commissioner Beaman.
Yes.
Commissioner Hodge.
Yes. Okay. So now for our viewers at home and in the room, we're going to go into closed session, and it's going to be like a long commercial break. We'll be back shortly. So stay tuned, and then we'll be back to discuss all the items that you're all here to talk about, or that you came to talk about earlier and are very interested in. All right, let's go. So I am going to look for someone to make a motion to take everything from the table. Is there a second? All right, all in favor? This is a roll call. Hold on.
All right. Commissioner Light,
Yes.
Commissioner Machewski,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbie, Commissioner Sanders, Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Somerville.
Yes.
Commissioner Beaman,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodge,
Yes.
Commissioner LeBar.
Yes.
Okay, back in action here, back to regularly scheduled programming. I'm going to pull item O for separate consideration. Anybody want to pull any other ones? At this point, we are at B, L, M, and O. Seeing none. No other ones? Okay, well then let us proceed with discussion of all the other items. Any discussion? Are there any necessary presentations? I see. Commissioner Robbie, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. My first question, I do have several. I didn't want to pull things off because I think I'm probably going to vote yes on most of them, but I did have some questions. So item C on the Huntington Bank COVID Micro Enterprises grant that we are receiving. I just wanted to understand, do we know what the 5 micro enterprises and 20 businesses within the county that are going to receive this money are, or what is the process by which we're going to determine that?
Here we go.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good evening. So that, I'm not sure where the 5 came from. I think it's from the definition of micro enterprises, 5 or less, and it will be 20 businesses. The 20 businesses will be from the Economic Stabilization Program for COVID impacted micro enterprises that we finished up this year. So we're going to take this as a second step for those businesses that were there. So there's 80 businesses that were there. We're going to reach out to those 80 and see which 20 would be interested from there.
And so what's the selection process basically to whittle it down from 80 to 20?
So we're going to look and see where they are in their business because this is to help them ramp up. So some of that is still being determined, but they all have to be 80% or less of AMI. So that's one of them. If they're over, then they won't be qualified.
That'll eliminate some of them right off.
That
the
will
bat.
eliminate,
Okay.
yeah, quite a few of them.
And so if they're qualified, once we get down to that number, then you basically will be determining, it won't come back to the board?
No.
Okay, so the okay. Okay, that's all I had on that one.
Do we have any other questions on this one? We don't want to do musical podium. So I don't want you to have to leave the podium and come back to the podium. So do we have any other questions on this item from anybody? Nope. All right, thank you. Go ahead, do your next one, Commissioner Robbie. No, Commissioner Machewski seems readier. You more ready?
I have a question on D.
Okay, let's do D.
Okay.
D as in dog.
This is the Meals on Wheels America grant.
Yep.
And I don't know if anybody's here. Oh,
here we go.
Awesome. So this is a 1-year grant to start up a cafe site in West Willow. Have you, I assume there's no plan right now for continuing funding beyond the grant period. And the follow-up to that is, have you had any conversations with Ageways, the Area Agency on Aging, which is responsible for the majority of the funding for the nutrition program right now, about how they might be able to support this beyond the grant period?
Yes, so we couldn't have somebody from our senior nutrition program available this evening, so let me take a quick look at some notes that I have. And Ellis may be able to answer some of the budgetary questions that you're asking as well.
Good evening. So I'll say broadly, we've had a shift in some of the cafe units and providers. And so there was a reduction in number of units. And so in order to hit our target, we're using this grant kind of as a starting off point to expand in West Willow. And then we'll potentially be able to support the program within our existing funding to make sure that we hit our target on cafe units.
Okay, so with the funding you're getting through the existing agreement right now with Ageways is going to be spread out.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's just identifying, supporting this program to kind of account for units that we lose in other places.
Okay. With that scenario, would it be possible in the future to maybe consider Saline as as an X site?
That is one of the sites that's also in consideration for future congregate growth, as well as another target area within Ypsilanti. As you know, we just added Manchester recently as well in April.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Hold on. Any other questions before? No, no, I already left the podium. Okay. No other questions? That's okay. I think you're good. All right. Anybody else? The collection of resolutions besides the pulled ones. I know you got, yeah, you're back up, Commissioner Robbie. Go ahead. Yeah.
Did have a question on J.
All right.
The ARPA money. So we're reallocating the money. Can you remind me what we're taking the money from?
So the funding will come from money that's been allocated to Supreme Felons, Inc. as a part of their community priority fund.
Thank you. That was my question.
Anything else on J? No, thank you. Was that hand, Crystal? Commissioner, no? Yeah, okay. Anything else on any of the other ones? Commissioner Robbie.
I have too many tabs open. So, give me a second. I do want to jump into K, but I don't have that tab open. So give me a second.
Commissioner Somerville.
Okay.
Oh, you have something to say about K. All right, we're on
Yeah.
K.
We're on K.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Okay. So I just wanted to thank everyone for waiting to work on this so we could make it a better policy. I appreciate staff and my colleagues that met when we were in between meetings to make it a stronger policy going forward. So thank you for that. And Andrew, thank you.
Thanks to all. All right. Commissioner Robbie, what you got on K? You participated in.
I did. And so just to add to what Commissioner Somerville just said, I really appreciate staff being willing to sort of workshop this, and a lot of the language that I had put forward as an amendment before we tabled it is included in this. So I'm very comfortable with this. I mean, some of the highlights that I'm really excited about are that we've created a system basically by which travel is going to be reported on Open Book, which I think is really important. So that was one of the main things that I wanted to see in here, and that's included. The quick question I did have is, can somebody who helped draft this just remind me, what did the highlighted things mean?
Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, Commissioners. The highlighted language in the draft policy represents the changes that were made earlier this year. And so we wanted to differentiate what had been pre-existing before that versus the changes now that you're considering tonight.
Thank you.
Anybody else on the travel policy? Nope. Commissioner LaBarre, what you got for us?
Chair, thanks. I appreciate all the work that's gone into it at the staff level. It's just a good opportunity to note. Yusuf, I want to say back in 2014 or 2015, there were a group of bills introduced in a bunch of states, Indiana in particular, RFRA, religious freedom restoration, something or other. We passed a policy prohibiting travel to states with those laws in place. And not tonight, but we may want to just look, as we look at travel policy, what is still on the books, what can we clean up, and what do we want to keep in place going forward. But thanks so much for all the work on this. Appreciate it.
Good teamwork. Yeah, it was. Good memory. Yeah, deep cut. Okay, good. Anything else on the travel policy? All right, thank you everybody for your work on that one. Commissioner Robbie, what you got next?
Sorry if this is too obvious, but just to clarify, the Metro Parks millage rate, we're setting that to put it on the ballot? Or we're just... So it's the Metro Parks that put it on the ballot? And
Yeah.
we are affirming that we're good with the rate that they...
If I understand correctly, all of the participants in the Metro Parks have to approve this, and then the Metro Parks put it on the ballot.
So, but my point is, it will be on the ballot in November, along with all of our other asks for money?
It's not on the ballot. It's to collect the
Where's that
tax
voice from?
dollars.
Oh. I was almost like there's a voice. Where are
So
you?
it's just like in May, we did the L4029 for the county levies that, well, primarily the summer levy for general operating. In the fall, you'll get it again for the special ones that are elected or were approved last night, and then what may be approved in November. This is the multi-county
Yep.
one for the metro
But
parks.
it's not on the ballot then?
It is not on the ballot. It's to levy the tax collection
Okay.
or to bill.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that.
Commissioner Maciejewski? No, you're good to go. Anybody else got anything? We've almost hit every letter now.
You want me to keep going?
If you got more, let's do them.
I have one more.
What you got?
On the last one, on the childcare crisis item. Again, I have to pull it up from my various tabs. Give me a second, but my question, obviously, yes, childcare is a crisis impacting families and it is a key barrier to economic growth in Livingston and Washtenaw County, but now it's loading the thing. My question was on, I think, the last be it resolved clause. Just trying to understand what we're asking our lobby firm to lobby on. Is this a bill?
Commissioner Labarge, this was your resolution. Did you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I'm pulling up a note from some of my notes on this, but it's essentially asking to lobby on behalf of the ideas that are being put forward by this local coalition, and also Yusuf to sort of add our voice to the recognition that we think this is a challenge. We think this is a workforce challenge and a challenge both private and public sector and elsewise. So this is really an effort for us to be on board with the overall thrust and supportive of the intended outcome and not so prescriptive that it's too detailed, but there for this effort at this time. So this is something that the coalition has been working with public sector consultants on, and I think we're fortunate Pete Lindeman is now in that role, having previously been our board liaison, and he can certainly answer other questions in the future. But I think adding our strength to that arm is the intent here.
The thrust of my question comes actually from one word in the last therefore be it resolved, where it refers to our lobby firm advocating on behalf of this proposal. And I just, so that in regards to your comment where you were speaking to the generalities of wanting to support this effort, I firmly agree with that. Devil's always in the details, and I would love to know what this proposal is that they're referring to. Or that you're referring to in the resolution. And if there's a.
I think you can access it through Spark's website. You might have to go ahead.
Yes, and to directly answer, it is the proposal that's been developed by this child care coalition, Yusuf, and that I believe they presented on to us maybe 2 meetings back, but that's the proposal they're referencing.
You good?
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. All right. Any other ones? All right. Well, it looks like it's going to be a roll call vote for all of the items except for the ones that were pulled.
And can you remind us which ones were pulled?
The items that were pulled are B, L, M, and O.
Commissioner Maciejewski.
Yes.
Commissioner Robbie.
So I will be voting yes on all the items other than item P. I will be abstaining on item P due to a conflict of interest.
Commissioner Sanders.
Yes.
Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
Commissioner Somerville.
Yes.
Commissioner Beaman.
Yes.
Commissioner Hodge.
Yes.
Commissioner LeBar.
Yes.
Commissioner Light.
Yes.
All right, most resolutions are passed. Let's move on to item B. Who pulled item B? I assume they have questions. Commissioner Beaman.
Thank you, Chair. This is just me and my numbers, so apologies. I'll try to make this one quick. I understand it's a competitive grant with a 5% match required. It looks like we're going over 10% to try to be more attractive as a grant applicant. I'm just wondering, and this is me with my numbers, why we're going the full 10.13% instead of 10%. Basically, we're gonna have to hold this money in trust. We can't use it. If the roof starts leaking, saving about $44,000 might get us some buckets and some shingles. So that's just my question.
Sure. Good evening. Yes. So the 300, let me get my numbers exactly right. That money is set aside for the roof replacement that we'd have to do regardless of the project. That was, we thought it would help improve our chances of on the grant application.
Okay, just to kind of further clarify, is there like, was there a timeline to use this 395? I just want to understand the urgency of if we have to hold on to this specific amount of money, we can't spend a dime of it, but are things leaking? You know, how urgent is this roof repair? I guess is my question.
Apologize, I misunderstood you. Yeah, it's not, it has a few more years left before it's due for replacement. So we have some room dependent on timelines and feedback from the grant. So it's not urgent, but it is coming up due in the next couple of years.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else on this one? All right. Good to go. All right, roll call.
Commissioner Robbie, Commissioner Sanders,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Somerville,
Yes.
Commissioner Beaman,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodge.
Yes.
Commissioner LeBar,
Yes.
Commissioner Light,
Yes.
Commissioner Machewski.
Yes.
All right, item B passed. On to L. Commissioner LeBar, I believe you pulled that one? L for LeBar? No? You do it. Sanders did it. Oh, I knew it was this area. You got a question about it?
Yeah, is there anybody here that can speak to the continuum of care? I'm interested in their vacancies that I'm seeing, and I'm wondering how long those vacancies have existed and what attempts are there to get those filled?
Please hold. Let's see if we can have somebody answer that question.
Yeah, I don't have that information before me this evening. Tony just left. And well, here's Ellis. Yeah.
Yes. So good evening again, commissioners. I was going to say, I don't have those answers with me right here, but we'll follow up with staff on what attempts have been made to fill vacancies for the COC board, as well as how long those vacancies have existed.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this one? Commissioner Somerville.
I just wanted to thank Commissioner LeBar for his work.
Thank you, Commissioner LeBar. L for LeBar. We did that on purpose. We actually, I think, might have. When we get to M, I'll tell you why that one is too. Okay. Yeah, you did it, Andrew. Thanks. You'll see. I'll mention in a minute. Okay. Any other comments or questions about L? Roll call vote.
Commissioner Sanders,
No.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Somerville,
Yes.
Commissioner Beaman,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodge.
Yes.
Commissioner LeBar,
Yes.
Commissioner Light,
Yes.
Commissioner Machewski,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbie.
All right, that takes care of L. That was no. There we go. That takes care of L. All right, now on to M. M for millages. We were shuffling around the agenda and I'm like, we have to talk about the millages again. We might as well make it M. All right. Andrew did it too. I didn't, yeah, thank you. All right, let's talk about it. So this one is kind of complex. We got two opinions here, a battle of opinions or something. Want to call it a battle? Who wants to go first? All right.
All right. I'm before you supporting resolution M, which would at least again from make sure this is all the way up here. From my standpoint as election administrator, to reduce the length of the 4 proposals that the county has put on the ballot for the November election. The caption or heading, whatever that that appeared with the original proposal, which is very repetitive, redundant, and it's full of legalese. And it is really it's excessive, and the voters are not reading those things. In fact, we had these things online, and people are complaining about them. And not only that, it contributes to people deciding, looking at it, becoming confused or having trouble comprehending it and voting against it. To make a millage or a proposal of any kind to be more appealing, it should be clear on what it's for. And so these titles that are proposed are enormously better. The other thing is that in every general election, we in the clerk's office struggle to fit all the races and all the proposals on 2 sides of one piece of paper, one 20-inch long by 8.5 piece of paper to go into the tabulator. Now, if we fail at that, if the quantity of stuff on the ballot overruns that one sheet, and especially we're talking about countywide, so every precinct in the county, that second sheet has to be printed on both sides. Every ballot has to be printed on both sides because of the timing marks and so forth that appear. So even if there is if there's an election, a single election for one proposal, the ballot is being printed on both sides. So having to print 2 sheets for every ballot basically doubles the printing cost. And I'm talking about an extra, in round numbers, $100,000. Not only that, it wastes, you think about this, 300,000 ballots, 300,000 additional ballots. That's about 1.5 tons of paper that would basically be a waste just to have to accommodate these extra long verbiage in these proposals. Now, I know that that these things were written by attorneys from Miller Canfield, and I know Miller Canfield is the most prestigious law firm in the state, but they are bond attorneys. And bond attorneys have a tendency to be very expansive when it comes to the consumption of paper. I know because many of these things that have come through, bond issues and things like that, I'm called on to sign, the treasurer is called on to sign, and they say, well, you have to sign it in these 15 places or these 22 places. Again, trying to cover every possible manifestation of, maybe some slight confusion. But again, this is written not for ordinary folks to read, but for other lawyers who might be interested in some very, very small aspect of it. The overwhelming majority of voters, 99%, are not going to read all the legalese. It's not really necessary for the ballot to recite absolutely every detail. But if it were up to me, I would reduce this language further than you have. But given the layout, this is the last time we can change this for the November election, this meeting. The proposal to replace the summary that appears at the head of each of these proposals with a shorter description, I think is a reasonable compromise at this moment. And I don't guarantee that even if you pass this resolution number M, that it's going to save us from having a 2-page ballot. That is still yet to be determined, and there's a lot going on. There's 2 charter amendments in Ann Arbor and so forth. We have, again, limitations on the font size, limitations on the number of columns, all those kinds of things that go into the designing of the ballot. Now, the other aspect of this is that when you have 2 ballots, it makes the election much more complicated to administer. And every voter coming through has to have these 2 pieces of paper. At the end of the night, you have to have 2 times the number of ballots, basically of the right kinds. Otherwise, the precinct doesn't balance. It takes longer to figure out, for the poll workers at the poll, it'll take them longer to close the precinct. It'll take them, every step of the way will be more time consuming. And I can remind you that this coming election in November, Michigan is one of the swing states that will be getting a disproportionate amount of attention from the national media. And Washtenaw County, out of the 83 counties in Michigan, is the most Democratic. And so when Washtenaw County fails to report in a reasonable amount of time, it takes extra time. There's going to raise all kinds of issues and suspicions, because what's going on in Washtenaw County, why haven't they reported yet? Again, because of delays created by having to handle 2 ballots, 2 pieces of paper for every voter. If we have to do it, we can do it, but there'll be delays, there will be costs. And the space on the ballot, on a general election ballot, is precious. It's not an infinite free resource. And so you should be considering the trade-off between how much you want to have, to say in this ballot language versus the cost of going so far. So Andrew and I and others in the county administrator, basically we worked out that the quickest way to deal with this is your resolution M, and I urge you to approve it.
All right, thank you for that. So before I get to commissioners, and Commissioner LaBarre is first in the queue, Corporation Counsel has an alternative argument.
Yes, so Corporation Counsel's office approached Miller Canfield and their municipal tax attorney, the individuals that we would go to should we have a challenge with our ballot language. And they reviewed our proposed ballot language, and their recommendation was to have introductory language ahead of the ballot question itself to help demystify some of the dense ballot questions. There are lots of statutory requirements for the specific ballot question itself, and there are not those same limitations with the introductory language. So it's, I guess, the opinion of those attorneys that it's more of an aid, more of a tool, and in their opinion, helps avoid voter confusion. It's just simply a different philosophy, a different approach, a different risk calculation. I can certainly appreciate the clerk's experience with these types of matters and insight. I think some of the things that you have mentioned are not things that were considered by the attorneys who assisted us. It's not legally required to have an introductory sentence. It's not necessary, and it's perfectly acceptable to adopt the clerk's request.
Yeah, you didn't really make a super strong argument against it. But all right, Commissioner LaBarre, go ahead.
Chair, I appreciate you facilitating the meeting and the preface there about the strength of argument. I think Corporation Counsel's done an admirable job in this in terms of trying to make sure we don't make any mistake that we don't absolutely have to, and that we are as clear as we possibly can. And that means, I think, being somewhat lengthy in wording. I think Clerk Kestenbaum is right on this, both on the substance and I think most importantly, beyond a clear summary and beyond including renewal and restoration. I think we will have enough emotion on election night that I think anything we can do to make that easier. I think of relatives I run into and that probably others at this table talking about ballot mules and what happened in Philadelphia or so-and-so at 3, all sorts of conspiracy theories. I think this is prudent, and I just want to go on record that I'm supportive. But Michelle, I really appreciate that you, as you do, start us in a defensive posture on language. But I think Larry makes a great argument, and I'll be supportive of it.
Commissioner Robbie.
Just want to make sure I understand what Miller Canfield's opinion actually is here. What is their opinion? And what do they opine on?
Well, there is no legal requirement to have the introductory language. It's just a risk recommendation to have it. In their opinion, it helps assist voters.
I'm just trying to understand what they mean by that. Like, I mean, I hear that, and that seems like a policy question, less so a legal question. So are they saying that it will be harder to defend? Or are they just generally, I guess I'm trying to understand what they're.
Sure, no, I can see the challenge there, but I think it just comes down to avoiding voter confusion. I don't think the ballot question itself is any harder to defend.
To be clear, what we're being asked to vote on is essentially taking the long all caps title, which currently is several lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines. That is before the bolded section and before the long description, followed by the yes and no part. We are only changing the all caps section to just be the one sentence. We are not changing the substance of the description that will still appear in the ballot. So it's essentially currently the way that it will, if we don't make this change, it will basically be redundant language in the title and in the body. And if the voter essentially is interested, the distinction here is, do we print it twice and do we print it in all caps one of those 2 times? That's really the question that we're being asked to. But all the information will appear in the ballot question either way.
Yes.
For the
that's fair.
voter to review if they would like to review it.
Correct.
Okay. I'm comfortable supporting this.
Anybody else? Thumbs up. All right. All right. Let's do it. Roll call vote. So to be clear, voting yes is to change to the amended language that reduces the amount of text. Voting no is to keep the longer language. Go ahead.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Somerville,
Yes.
Commissioner Beaman,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodge,
Yes.
Commissioner LeBar,
Yes.
Commissioner Light,
Yes.
Commissioner Machewski,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbie, Commissioner Sanders.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I know this is very important.
I'm going to go home and get some sleep.
Okay. You have a good night. All right, we're gonna move on to item O. That's the one that I pulled. So this is. Oh, indeed. So everybody at the table now, and I think perhaps in the audience, has a updated version of that resolution. And I'd like to have somebody move that we substitute it by amendment. The gist of the change here is that all mention of non-union staff have been removed from the resolution. Commissioner LeBar.
I'd move to amend by substitution.
Support.
Okay, any discussion? Oh, let's do it. Amending this by substitution. Yeah, it's item O. It removes, to reiterate, it removes. You are correct. That is correct. Yes, this removes all mention of non-union staff from the title of the resolution and the body of it.
Commissioner Somerville,
Yes.
Commissioner Beaman,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodge,
Yes.
Commissioner LeBar,
Yes.
Commissioner Light,
Yes.
Commissioner Machewski,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbie, Commissioner Sanders,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
All right, amendment passed. All right, so now we have the amended motion here. Or amended resolution, sorry. Any comments, questions? Commissioner Scott.
Thank you. First, again, congratulations to the unions for ratifying an agreement. It is a heavy lift. Your work at the bargaining table, I know from experience, is back breaking and slogging and painful work sometimes. And I commend you for keeping up with it and getting a deal for your members. That being said, I have a question for the administrator on this resolution. At the end of this resolution, it says, it says that at the end of the other ones too, and I just want to be clear, be it further resolved that the county administrator is authorized to modify all funds budgets to cover the cost of implementation of the labor agreements if needed. I'd like some clarification on what that language means in respect to the fact that we passed a resolution at this table that those budgets need to be covered for the increased cost. Is that what that's referring to? Or is this referring to that you may change the budget in some other areas because of those increased labor costs?
Tina,
So in May, the budget was modified for the agreements that we were going to propose. It was all put into central charges because we didn't have enough time to divvy it up based on what the contract would end up being. So it's budgeted and approved. It's just going to be a net neutral budget adjustment to get them into the proper budgets. For instance, the non-general fund departments won't have enough time when we start the wage increases at the end of August and start the retro calculations to come back to the board. So if they run into a budget situation, we just want to have the flexibility to be able to make that net neutral budget adjustment. Does that make sense?
I think so. But you're not, I just want to be clear that this sentence is not saying that because we had to do something to help the budget because of the resolution that we passed at this board table, that those increased labor costs then are covered by administration, not been, so their budget is adjusted because of that. That we're not going to adjust their budget in other places and bring it down.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Commissioner Robbie.
Building off of that, this is maybe a slightly different approach to the question, but I'm still not quite clear. Does this give the administrator authorization beyond what the administrator is typically authorized for? The 100,000, I believe there's $100,000 administrator authorization. Does this give the administrator more authority to, modify all funds, but all funds budgets? What is that? What is funds budgets? Define funds budgets. It's the apostrophe.
Remember, a budget is calculated on a set of assumptions. In May, we modified the proposals in the set of assumptions. We modified the budget to cover the increased proposals for the wage adjustments.
Right.
But we did it in one place. We know we're going to have to disperse that
Oh, I
based
see.
on all the agreements to all the employees. And it's a net neutral budget adjustment. So we look at it as that's within administrative authority because it's not increasing the budget $100,000 or more. It is net neutral. It's reducing it elsewhere to
So we've already
reclassify it to
allocated
the
the
where
money.
that it needs
Yeah.
to the where it needs to be spent.
Got it. We've
that
already allocated
help?
the money and you're just putting it in the right places in the budget.
Yes, correct.
Okay, all right. I'm pretty sure you just said the same thing to Katie, but now I understand it somehow. You know, it's like you were looking at me in the eyes. I think that's what the difference.
All right, excellent. Anybody else? Commissioner LeBar.
Sure, I just wanted to thank the staff and their labor partners just in terms of getting near this end line and all the work that's gone into it. It's appreciated.
Absolutely. It's been a long road to get here. Thanks to all. Thanks to all. Okay. All right. Wow. No other questions. That's great. Then we can move on. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Beaman,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodge.
Yes.
Commissioner LeBar,
Yes.
Commissioner Light,
Yes.
Commissioner Machewski,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanders,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes, solidarity.
Commissioner Somerville,
Yes.
Item passed. Fantastic. All right. Well, now we will move on to report from the county administrator because we already approved claims with the chunk of them from earlier.
Thank you, Chair. I too want to thank our labor partners for their willingness to work on this. Obviously, this was a heavy lift for the organization, and I can't thank them enough for the patience and commitment that they displayed throughout this process. Happy that we're here, and we'll continue to try to work together on all items related to the employees of this organization. Also, I am joined by Jason Fee, who is going to provide you with a very brief update on the electrification and renewable energy projects within Washtenaw County.
Thank you, Greg. Good evening again, commissioners. Just have a brief update on a ARPA-funded solar EV charging project. Before I get started, I'd like to acknowledge a couple of facilities management team members that really deserve credit for the work on this project. Saray Hong, our financial manager. Saray, and Mary Braun, our energy and sustainability coordinator. Without their work, I would not be up here today to report out on this project. While that's coming up, we have some solar out there across the county, but this is really getting us back in the game and out the door down the road for setting us up for future solar projects and some of our other sustainability goals. So this is round one, but this is going to be a very impactful project to the county. And I'll touch on a few other follow-up projects that are in alignment and will continue this good work throughout the slideshow tonight. So a quick recap, what have we done so far? So we were awarded ARPA funding for this project in the quadrennial budget. And earlier tonight, we brought before you an Eagle grant to help supplement this project a little bit even further. We're looking at over $2.4 million for a combination of rooftop, ground mount, carport, solar, and EV charging stations, which will be county owned and operated and be providing us alternate energy for the next 25 plus years. So super exciting and a big impact on operational savings. For this project, believe it or not, it goes back to March. We did something a little bit different. We did a design build RFP for solar at 6 county locations. We received 6 bids, all from Southeast Michigan. We went through the bid process, which was pretty lengthy. We also consulted some partners from the Ann Arbor Washtenaw 2030 district to help us sort through the technical details. Bids and review the scope and make sure we're really getting the biggest bang for a buck on this project. Throughout the course of the RFP and reviewing the bids, we did learn quite a bit on pros and cons of the different types of solar, whether it's a rooftop, carport, or ground mount. So made a few minor changes through that process, but we're at a great spot at this point. So project scope, diving in a little bit of details. Again, a very large project and hopefully one of many going in the future. So we really tried to spread the project across the county. So goal at the correction center was really max out the roof space. There's a ton of roof space up there. And with that being one of our biggest facilities and consumer of energy, this is going to be great and have a positive impact right away. So, and some of these figures are estimates at this point, and as we work through engineering and installation, we'd like to come back in the future and provide an update on how close we were, or if we achieved or exceeded these goals. Moving out to the west side of the county, out at Zeeb Road, we're looking to do some rooftop solar there, and also some ground mount EV carport chargers. Again, and really our primary goal with the EV chargers is to align and support the county's internal fleet and the transition over to electric vehicles. But as you've seen here with our pilot, we're also hoping to make that available to staff and visitors for a small cost recovery fee. Moving back east, back to the service center at the LRC, we're hoping to achieve 100% offset through the solar panels and make that the county's first net zero facility. So super exciting there. Also at the service center, in the parking lot next to the overflow or children's services, the overflow lot we commonly refer to, is we're looking to do a solar carport structure again with some EV chargers there for county fleet and also visitors and staff to the service center. Community corrections also at the service center. This was when we originally did the RFP, we included that as an alternate. Not sure if what the outcome of that Eagle grant was, but since we're successful, we're going to be able to also include the community corrections facility. And again, hopefully we can near 100% of the annual usage for electricity there at community corrections. Towner, also want to mention Towner, I mentioned that earlier. Out there, we are going to be installing a very large solar carport in the staff parking lot. Again, there's a large volume of fleet vehicles out there at the Towner campus. So again, our primary goal will be to power up those fleet vehicles and also provide some solar power back into the facility out there. So where are we at? Current status. We have awarded the bid, and we're through the protest period. We're starting to draft the contract right now, and happy to say that we are awarding the project to Homeland Solar, which is a local Ann Arbor company here. So they've done a lot of work with other municipalities in town here. So we're super excited about partnering up with them on this project. Working on the contract, so you will see that through a 7-day BOC review, hopefully here in the next few weeks. So keep an eye out for that. And then we'll continue to work through, those fine project details, iron out the last few things over the next couple months. Hope to really get started on the project later this fall, and our goal is to have the project wrapped up by the end of next year, calendar year. So future steps, some of the other items that are going to go along with this current project. Through this project, we're going to do some detailed monitoring and measurement of our solar output, and we're going to connect that into our building management system so we can real-time track how the systems are operating and make sure we're getting our credit due back from DTE through the solar generation. We're also planning this project so we can do additions in the future. We know this is just, again, really getting us out of the gate and getting us started on some of the projects. And also the equipment that we're going to pick is going to allow us to look at future microgrids and battery backups. Again, continue to build our resiliency and disconnect from the grid as much as physically possible at this point. So next round, hopefully again, next round of solar. We are also currently in the middle of a countywide decarbonization study. So we'd love to bring the results back and provide where we can fill in the gaps outside of this solar project as well. Funding. So as you've seen tonight, we're really out there trying to see what grants are available and go after what we can and really help to supplement our projects moving forward. So with that, questions, and I'd like to offer, we'd love to come back in several months and report out on progress of this project.
We'll have you back in several months. Any questions, friends? Good presentation. Commissioner Scott.
I'm beating Commissioner Robbie all over the place tonight.
You are.
I have a question for you. Lovely presentation. It's exciting to think about what we're doing with solar project updates. What my question is, looking at the project scope, we've got some work. Some of this seems like places, I'm thinking about how this is intersecting with the space plan and what we're thinking about doing about our footprint in the county going forward. Some of these things seem like we're in it, we're not moving, but I think there are some questions about what the footprint looks like in Ypsilanti and at Towner and at different locations in Ypsi. And I'm wondering about putting an investment in this location when we don't know what our footprint is going to look like in Ypsi. Like, how are these things, how have these project scopes been integrated with the idea of what our space plan might look like in the future?
Great question. Yes, we definitely took space plan possibilities in consideration, you know, and tried to work through them a probability and risk, but no. So at Towner, for example, we just completed a parking lot project, and we anticipate maintaining a footprint for sure at the Towner campus. So this project will be putting a solar canopy out in that parking lot. And it will backfeed the building, and we have a fair amount of fleet vehicles between us and the state of Michigan out there. So that's probably one of our biggest internal fleet needs is at the Towner location. So we thought that would be a great starting point. And then as space plan develops, you know, both, you know, depending on what the outcome of that is, those buildings will require significant renovations. So at that point, we figured we could electrify the HVAC equipment, and then, you know, do another layer of solar panels up on the roof or ground mount solar panels. So left ourselves some wiggle room there, and to let space plan play out.
Thank you. One of the other like questions, it's not really a question, maybe as much as a comment, but like we're doing this ARPA project, solar EV charging, and we're again looking pretty inward. And I agree, we need to do our part here at the county to take care of this. But one of the things I have said from the beginning, talking about any kind of solar project at the county, was that I didn't want us just to be like looking internal at ourselves, but think about how we could take money and leverage things to think about working in solar projects into low opportunity index areas where people are going to be most impacted by climate change, and having an offset for their utility bill would be actually helpful for them. So I'd love to see about how we can take our new environmental officer and work with OCED maybe in conjunction with some of the projects that are happening, and what we can do as a county kind of to leverage our position to make sure these solar panels are put into places to put the most help out into the community. That's very important for me going forward. Thanks.
All right, Commissioner Robbie.
Yeah, and just to add to that, you know, maybe I missed a meeting, but was this presented at Environmental Council?
Not yet, no.
We should probably present this at the Environmental Council. Okay. Get their feedback on it. Get the chair of the Environmental Council involved, and get Beth involved. In what way is Beth involved in this so far?
So far, not a whole lot, but we're going to get her up to speed on all the details of it.
That's great. I think, yeah, getting Beth involved, the Environmental Commission, really important. Obviously, I think all of your work, you're awesome, Jason. Like, you do good work. This is awesome that you've taken the initiative to, I mean, you're responding to what we've all said as a board and as a priority, but you're also taking this great initiative to push this forward. And I think that's really good. And now that we have some of these other county apparatuses that are involved, I think it's important to get everybody together, especially you and Beth, to work in conjunction on this, because there may be some things that she sees that you're not seeing, and vice versa, that could help. So definitely, I think the Environmental Commission would benefit greatly from knowing that we're making this investment.
Will do. Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Jason does good work. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
All right.
That concludes my report.
All right. We're gonna move on to report from me. We're gonna just go over that because we have an item for current or future discussion, and we all probably want to get out of here before 11. I thought we'd be here to 1, given that we went all the way to R. But we're not. We're gonna keep it going. So everybody at the dais has this. It's a resolution approving the recommendations set forth as a result of negotiations for non-union employees and other related matters. I'd look for somebody to move this. Somebody. You gonna do it? You moving it? No?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Beeben.
I said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The mic wasn't on. I was confused. I said, yeah.
Support.
Well, I'm looking at you. Okay. Well, I didn't hear you. All right. Thank you. All right. Any questions or comments about it? Commissioner Beeben seconded it. Apparently Commissioner Somerville did. I didn't hear her. Okay. Well, I was, tried to. Any questions or comments about it, friends? Let's keep it going here. Commissioner Robbie.
Yeah, so I want to be responsive to some of the things that were said at public comment. And I think that I'm glad that we separated the resolutions out. I think it's a good start. And I think that there is, as Commissioner Scott said, labor is very important to go into the room, fight for these contracts, get good contracts. And what we've seen, and one of the talking points for the labor movement overall has always been, when labor gets good contracts, it means good things for all workers. And that's why we need to support the labor movement. And I believe that. And I believe that that is exactly what's going on here. On the flip side, what we don't want to happen is for people to feel like they can kind of just ride in on the coattails of labor without participating in the labor movement. In many cases, it is not the choice of non-union staff to not participate in the labor movement. We've created union positions, non-union positions. There's a lot that goes into all that. So generally speaking, I would like to see our non-union staff get some type of compensation adjustment, especially because, and this is morphing into a question now, it is my understanding that our non-union employees have not gotten a compensation adjustment in some time. Is that correct?
January, that's correct. Is that what you just said?
So they got a compensation adjustment in January. Is that something that our union staff also received?
They will.
So it'll be
And
retroactive.
some have received it already.
So there's some in the contract component for retroactive pay back to January for the.
Previously settled labor contracts have already received that January increase. And at the same time that was issued, non-union also received that January 3%.
And in the language that you have in front of us, would there be a duplication of that 3% for non-union staff, or does it not speak to that January? They won't get retroactive pay because they already got it. Is that correct?
Right, they will not receive what they've already received. No duplication, I guess, is what.
Okay. Thank you. Katie doesn't understand still, so she's gonna ask later. So morphing into my next question now, does this apply to all non-union employees of the county?
Yes,
With the exception, of course, of the Board of Commissioners
correct,
and countywide elected officials?
correct,
So all non-union, non-elected staff?
correct.
Well, I think it excludes the administrator and corporation counsel too, right? Oh, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
our contracts dictate.
What do your contracts dictate, that you get the same raises?
Greg's contract and my contracts do not align. They're different. His compensation increases by a certain multiplier of what the lowest paid employee's salary increases.
Mhm.
And then my contract follows non-union.
So whatever non-union get, you get.
Correct.
I'm concerned generally, and so now I'm getting away from questions to a statement, which is, well, actually, I'm going to go back to questions. When, in 2023, we approved a resolution that gave pay raises to, I believe, 17 county employees. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Including countywide electeds, the Board of Commissioners, and department heads, and some other managerial administrative staff.
Yes,
This would apply to them as well.
correct.
That makes me deeply uncomfortable.
Well, not everybody on that list though, right? Because it excludes, like you said, the countywide elected officials and then the Board of
So we're
Commissioners.
talking now about probably 12 people if you take out. Because I actually don't know if the county commissioners were included in that list of 17. I remember vaguely that there were like 4 or 5 department heads, some folks in finance, and there were some folks in the courts maybe included in it. I'm going off of memory now.
Then there were a couple of health department too.
Health department. So we already gave them a substantial pay increase, and now they're gonna get an additional pay increase on top of that, just correct?
Correct.
That makes me uncomfortable.
You don't have to raise your hand yet, but I think he was faster. Commissioner LeBar and then Scott.
Thanks, Chair. Corporation Counsel or Administrator, is there any additional information in terms of what those individuals received and when they last received any compensation modifications? Is there any substantive additions to this discussion either you wish to add? Is there any useful information that could provide further context on this? Or are we sort of just left with the questions asked and the answers provided? Let me ask it a different way. So
Thank you.
Let me speak as candidly as I can, and I'm not trying to be discourteous. This is an ongoing frustration. This is what I, and I think others have asked for in terms of not wanting to be surprised with things, particularly when they're probably well-reasoned things. We have to pay all of our staff, and we certainly have to pay department heads and other higher level individuals to compete with a market. What we don't want to do is be unfair to anyone, and certainly not overly generous to someone at the detriment of our labor folks on the front line and our non-labor folks on the front line. So to Commissioner Robbie's question, based on your answers, it sounds like what you're saying is these individuals receive significant raises within the last 12 months and would be in line for 3% in some raises with this resolution. Is there any extra contextual information in terms of what was the gap in time between their previous increases? Is there anything else you can sort of add to this discussion to give us some context? And if there's not, that's okay. But boy, I'm sure asking now at this moment.
So let me try to give you just a little bit of context, and it certainly may not satisfy the 9 of you, but the compensation adjustment that we're talking about for 2023 was a market adjustment. This adjustment is in alignment with what every other employee in the organization received. And I don't believe, and please help me, Michelle, I don't believe that any of the non-union staff received any additional adjustment outside of the January adjustment. So I thought I heard earlier someone say that we had received, non-union had received an increase back to January of this year. I don't believe anybody, any non-union staff people have received anything other than the January 1st increase. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Yeah. So I don't know if that adds additional context, and I'm not trying to conflate the two. So we're talking about a market adjustment and an increase that every employee in the organization has received.
Chair, if I may.
Yeah, please.
Administrator Dill, thank you. That's helpful. Can you differentiate just a little bit when you say market adjustment? What does that mean in the context of historical precedent within the county? We tend to follow, this calendar. What was a differentiating circumstance with that market adjustment? Maybe that would explain some of the numbers, some of the gap there.
Yeah, for me, the differentiator here is the MAG study. The MAG study identified certain positions that were further away from market than others. That adjustment was meant to address that particular item. This adjustment is about compensation across the whole of the organization.
So it could be argued then that the MAG adjustment was significant because it was unique and it was essentially a long time in coming. And regardless of what folks feel about MAG, it was significant.
Yeah.
And that this action tonight puts us largely in line with what we've historically done for a number of reasons.
That is correct.
Okay.
So historically, this organization has always followed 2733. It's our largest union group, and we don't provide increases to non-union staff until such time as that agreement has been settled. This adjustment follows that process, that framework.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful to me. Thank you.
To add more context, can you speak to the total number of non-union employees? It's something like 220, right? And then it ranges from, because I think frequently when we have these conversations, I think people are thinking about the non-union employees as being the department heads, which is accurate, but there are also many other people that are not at that level of the organization.
Right. And I will ask Guillermo for the exact number. I do think it's more than 220.
As of today, we have 216 non-union employees, and if we include non-union employees at the sheriff's office, it is 271.
Commissioner Scott.
Nothing has become clearer to me. I'm like swimming through the mud. Non-union employees is what Yusuf was told, received an increase in January.
Correct, yes.
All non-union employees received 3% in January. And this is now proposing, this resolution is proposing to give them another increase?
No, no.
What is this resolution doing then?
It's proposing that non-union receive increases in alignment with 2733. They've already received the January increase, so they will not be extended that again.
So they're going to receive 3% plus whatever extra?
They've already received the January 3. So the next thing non-union will receive is the July 5%.
They're going to get 5% on top of the 3% they got?
Yes.
But the union employees are getting?
They will also receive that 3 plus 5.
Now, and retro paying their 3%.
Yes.
January.
Yes.
I have to think about this. Come back to me.
All right, anybody else? Anybody that has not spoken yet? Commissioner Robbie.
Just want to make sure I understand also, building off of Commissioner Scott. So in the union contract, it says in January 2024, folks get 3%. In July, folks get 2% structural and a property tax adjustment that is turned out to be how many, what percent?
3%.
3%. So that means that in July, they get 5%.
Correct.
That's what union staff get.
Correct.
The 3% and assuming the 5% as well are both retroactive to their respective effective dates, July 1st and January 1st.
Yes.
What you're saying is the non-union staff already got their 3%, so they won't get the 3% retroactive pay.
Correct.
But they will get the 5%.
Yes.
I only delved into that further because the resolution that we're voting on does have that 3% in there. And so I just want to make sure, like, understand, it's your understanding that they're not going to get double for the 3%, but just want to understand.
Right.
It is in the resolution. So
We could add a line that says to be clear, non-union is not to receive a second 3% for January of 24.
I mean, could we just remove that from the resolution? Or is this, I assume that this, well, let me ask this, is this language attached here too and made a part hereof? So it's part of the resolution, right?
Tina has something to offer.
So the non-union 3% increase as of January 1st was in alignment with APA and PDA settled agreements. That was implemented a certain way. ASME negotiated something different that will be implemented more and favorable to the employee. Because of Me Too, that will be extended to APA and PDA as well, and then non-union. So for equivalency, we don't want to remove it because it's going to change the basis of the calculation. I mean, I guess it's your prerogative, but we were trying to align everything.
Can you help me understand what the distinction is there? I'm sorry if that's too far in the weeds, but is it like it was not a structural increase and now it's a structural
So it was a
increase?
structural increase, but it did not move the tables. And if you were at the maximum, you got a lump sum payment for a portion of it, all of it. It depended on the calculation. But because now they're table movers, it changes the calculation.
So instead of a lump sum, you're going to have the top of the table still going to get a structural increase.
Right, because of the May resolution per your direction to make it table movers, all the increases.
Okay.
Anybody else? Mr. Scott?
I want to be clear that I believe what I said at the beginning of the meeting about how I think that what unions do is not only protect their members, but make the community stronger. My union wage at my employer helps nurses at other locations in this county get a higher wage because I bargained for it. And I'm not resentful of that. I think they should get wage increases. And I think that non-union employees at the county should be recognized for their work. They don't have the protections that unions have in terms of workplace democracy and the ability to speak out, and they're at-will employees. And there are a lot of other things unions do for employees other than just wages. Hours and working conditions are the requisite subjects, mandatory subjects of bargaining. And I think that gives workers a lot of strength in the workplace, and that workplace democracy is very important. This section of what's happening with non-union employees, I do not begrudge non-union employees getting more money. I do have some compunction, concern about the fact that there were non-union employees that got really large raises last summer, and that we're going to add on to it even more. We are already at the top of the scale for many different areas. I'd like to think about like how we can make sure that we are getting the first whereas in here, that we seek to ensure all employees are compensated equitably and fairly. And we're thinking about that what equitably means. And equitably does not mean equally. And so I think that's something we need to think about in this resolution. I'm not sure how we can work around this right now, but again, I just want to emphasize that and you should know this, if you're watching this and you're a non-union employee, this raise you're getting, you should go thank the people who are in unions because they're getting this for you. But I want to think about what we can do here to talk about equitably and fairly with the recognition that doesn't mean equally. That's it.
Anybody else? Anybody that has not spoken yet? Multiple times. Commissioner Somerville.
Yeah, I just want to say that I co-sign everything that Commissioner Scott just said.
Commissioner Robbie.
So I guess one related thought and then a tangential thought. The related thought is what do we do about this? I mean, I guess I don't want to like vote against the vast majority of non-union employees getting a pay increase, but I also am very uncomfortable giving people that already got close to 10% a year ago, getting another large adjustment. It really makes me uncomfortable to do that. So I don't know how to proceed there. I guess the tangential thought that I had was, I just wanted to confirm, does this non-union resolution apply to the trial court staff as well?
Yes.
Oh, wow. So we're gonna be giving non-union trial court staff, wow, okay. Just wanted to, I mean, that's, Board of Commissioners is giving a pay increase to trial court staff.
Yes.
Huh, okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure that I understood correctly because it does seem like it's within our purview to do stuff like that. And so here we are with a resolution where we're doing that. It's very interesting to me, and I just wanted to tangentially note that in the course of our discussion.
Anybody else?
Have we consulted the chief judge on that?
Anybody else? Okay, well, if there are no other comments, we'll go ahead and roll call vote it.
Commissioner Hodge,
Yes.
Commissioner LeBar,
Yes.
Commissioner Light,
Yes.
Commissioner Machewski,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbie,
For my vote, I'd like to ask for help from Corporation Counsel. Is there a way to separate out how I'm voting for individual employees?
What?
No.
So there's no way of delineating the employees that already got a pay increase at the July.
I think you'd have to change the resolution language in order to do that.
Well.
What are you looking at me for? You got to vote, yes or no? I can't help you now. Or leave the room. I don't know. Do something. Leave the room. Vote yes or no. You got three options here.
I call this the filibuster's third option. I'm gonna vote yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Sanders,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yeah.
Commissioner Somerville,
Yes.
Commissioner Beaman,
Yes.
Okay, last item passed. All right, well, let's move on now to pending items. There are none. So now I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? All right, we're out. out of here. See you next month.